Following blessings are followed by Pesukei to Zimra, which means um, words or verses of song. These are psalms of praise, songs of praise, as one might say. And the most central of those is the Ashrei prayer, which Shirley will now talk about.
Thank you, Rabbi, and hello everybody again. So lovely to have you back. And for those who are going to be listening later, I'm excited for you to listen later. So I'm going to share the screen. Let's see how this goes. Share. Okay, you all still with me? Yeah? Excellent. I just need to move this because it's in the way. Okay, so we're going to talk about Ashrei. And the rabbis say something very interesting about Ashrei that I haven't heard about some of the other prayers. And it says, Rabbi Eliezer, I'm just reading the second part. It says, Rabbi Eliezer says that Rabbi Avina said that anyone who recites a Psalm of David, which is the actual Psalm of Ashrei that we say, 3 times a day is assured of a place in the world to come, which is wonderful. I think we all want a place in the world to come. That's what we're hoping for, that when we leave this world, we have a good place up there. And it sounds great. It's like a free ticket. There we go. We just say a few words 3 times a day and we're done. So obviously there's a little bit more meaning to that. I think if you live your life without trying to be godly and without trying to do good things and just saying these words, I don't think it's enough. But I think that it does show that this prayer is really important. So we're going to delve in and try and understand a little bit about what it is. Just to say that it comes from King David. King David wrote Psalms, Tehillim. He wrote, well, it's a compilation of words. There's 150 of them, and this one is number 145. And there's something special about it. And the rabbis say the 2 special things are, one is that it's in order. So I'm going to move on to the next. You can see it. I tried to take the pages from the Green Siddur so you can see it yourself. And if you look on the Hebrew side, for those who are familiar with the Aleph Bet, they'll see that the letters, each letter is the next letter. So it was as if you're going through the ABC, we're going through the Aleph Bet. And it shows that in this prayer, we are praising God. And it's actually, there's quite a lot in here. We're not just praising God, we're asking God for something. And we're also having a little bit of a conversation, which hopefully I'll get to shortly. So if anyone does know Hebrew, and you have a look at down the right-hand side, can you work out which letter is missing? So you can see Aleph, you can see the Bet, you can see the Gimel, Daled. We're going to have a hands up thing. Am I going to be able to see the hands up? Maybe the rabbi will be able to see, because if can you see everyone else? Because I can only see a few people. So does anyone have an idea which letter is missing? No pressure. If you don't know, just thought. Yes, Marsha? Oh, you're muted. And Michael's also got his hand up.
None.
None. Um, well done. Well done. Exactly. So the only letter that's missing is nun. And the reason is that the word nun stands for nofel. If anybody has been in shul when the rabbi does his fabulous nofel, when he's doing the Megillah, and the rabbi dresses up and he does all the different parts, and when he does horse and then he does the Haman falling, he says nofel and it all falls down. Anyway, so the word nofel means to fall. And so we don't have it in here because we're talking about God supporting. And the only place where we have the word nofel actually is the verse after the nun, which is the samach. It says somach Hashem l'chol hanoflim. Hashem supports all those who are fallen. So anyone who falls down, Hashem supports them. So we're just going to have a look. I don't know if you can see it so clearly. The pink. Can we see the pink? Marsha, can you see the pink because you're unmuted?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So summarizing just the first part lists praises of God and explains that Hashem looks after the whole creation and he's made everything and it's all complex and it's all wonderful. And then we move on to a little bit more of a conversation. And let's look at Lamed, the English one, to make known. Are you happy to read that?
To make known to mankind his mighty deeds and the glorious majesty of his kingship.
So If you read it in the regular sense, it says that we're recognizing that Hashem does amazing things, and there's a Hasidic interpretation which I just quite like as well, is to make known to man his, not just God's, but his mighty deeds. Each man, each action that you do is really precious, and sometimes we don't even realize it. We don't think of ourselves as great. So Levnei Adam Gvotav, to tell each person your actions are actually really important. And then we move on to the Lord supports all those who fall. And then it says, all raise their eyes to you in hope, and you give them their food in their season. So I wanted to tell you a very quick story. It's not a story, it's actually a fact that happened in the 1950s, which I found really fascinating. It's about cow dung, so I'm not sure if everyone else will find it fascinating. But I thought it was amazing that in Australia, there were European settlers who brought over their cattle and they were settling in Australia. Everything was wonderful, except that there was a lot of the cows did what they needed to do, and there was a lot of dung on the floor, and the dung was not sort of being absorbed. It wasn't working. So they imported beetles from Australia, from the place where they'd taken the cattle, and those beetles sit on the floor and eat up all the dung. Fabulous. They solved the problem. But what happened? A few months later, the beetles all died. And then we still had the problem with the dung not being dealt with. And they tried to look up what was the problem, why was it dying? And it turns out that these little beetles have on top of them tiny little mites. And the mites, there were no mites, and that's why the beetles died. So we ended up with a problem. Are you with me? Am I lost, or can you hear me?
Can hear you, but I didn't understand that.
Okay. So you've got cattle,
Yep.
and the cattle have been moved from Europe to Australia, and they're all fine and lovely, but there's too much cow dung on the floor. And so they had to find out how to get rid of the cow dung. And there's special beetles they brought all the way from Europe to deal with the cow dung on the floor. And the beetles were working fine, everything was lovely, and then the beetles died. And then it wasn't working and they didn't know what to do. And they tried to do research and they found out that these beetles have got teeny tiny mites that were living on them, and those mites were helping them to survive and to live. And they didn't import the mites. So what they realized is that actually the way Hashem created this world, there's so much complexity on every single layer. So when it says that Hashem gives each animal or each human being or each plant exactly what they need at the right time, it's all calculated. And then we turn it to something personal, which is I then say, and this is the most important part of Ashrei, which in English is you open up your hand and you give every living thing with your favor. So whatever you ask for, that's when you ask. You say, Hashem, I recognize it all comes from you. And actually, this is a conversation because the next verse down says, I recognize that Hashem is righteous. And that's the point where we have to say, actually, I've asked you, Hashem, for something, but maybe sometimes the answer is no, or maybe sometimes the answer is not yet, or maybe sometimes the answer is I have something even better. And that's not an easy thing to do. So actually, when we say this prayer, we're not just saying, Hashem, I recognize your greatness. We're saying, Hashem, I recognize your greatness. I ask for things. And I also recognize that sometimes there's things that are good for me and sometimes that aren't good for me. And you are great and you are right. And I think this is it's like a whole conversation between us and Hashem. Please, Hashem. And also I recognize that everything you do is good. And then right at the end, it says, even if I don't totally understand, I do know that there will be reward and punishment, which is just at the end. It says the Lord, Hashem, guards all those who love him and all the wicked who will destroy. So even if right now I'm not getting the answer I want, I'm recognizing that there is a bigger picture, and Hashem, you will give reward to the people who deserve it, and you will punish those who don't deserve it. So that way, it gives me the sense of actually there's more to life than I can understand, but I can still ask, and Hashem is happy for me to ask.